Hello everyone, this is Satish Kumar. So I'm here with my continuation lesson on emotional intelligence. So we are learning about emotional competence. In that emotional competence, we learned so far about the uh, four emotional competence, and we are also seeing the fifth emotional competence, that is social skills or interpersonal skills, that we saw in my previous lesson. In that, we only saw the three subcomponents of the three subcompetence of the social skills, that is influence, communication, and conflict management. So in this lesson we will learn about the remaining five competence, emotional competence, subcompetence of social skills. So the fourth subcomponent is what is known as leadership skills. Okay, developing leadership qualities. Okay, see, uh, people with this competence, okay, if somebody is possessing this competence, no, they are able to uh, inspire and influence others. Okay, in fact, the basic definition of leadership itself is that it is the ability to influence others towards some action or towards a goal. If you are working in an organization, if you are working, there are some 10 subordinates are working under you, it is your ability to influence those people to achieve the organizational goals, okay, from them. Okay, so leadership is about, in fact, we have to also understand leadership is about not about formal positions. Okay, you don't need to exhibit leadership skills just because you are in a managerial role or a director role. Of course, you need those skills if you are in that role, but you could also exhibit as an executive level, as a even middle level manager or a basic employee. So leadership skills is not about positions. Okay, it is about certain skills. Okay, certain skill sets which are, like, for example, leadership, if you could set that if you possess leadership skill, you will be able to articulate and arouse enthusiasm among people. Okay, you could inspire and influence people. For example, if you are a person who is always being in punctual to your office, okay, for example, if there is a 7 o'clock work daily, if you are before 6:55 every day and you are never late, you are a leader. You will inspire other people who come late, 7:15, 7:20, like that, no, those people will be ashamed of you. They will try to model you, you influence them to come earlier. Okay, if you have a good self control, if you could handle difficult situations very well, if you are emotionally capable person, in such situations you will naturally inspire and influence others to also acquire those skills. Okay, so in fact, leadership is also about articulating this kind of things. It is not only about us being like that. In fact, by being like that, we naturally influence others. We don't need to um, say to people like a manager does, like a boss does. In fact, there is a difference between what is the difference between a boss and leader. Okay, there is a saying which says that a boss says, "Come on, uh, go there," like that. Okay, go there. That's what a boss say. But a leader will say, "Come on, let's go." So he brings the people with him, but the boss is commanding the person. So that is the difference between a boss and a leader. A leader is a person who is, in fact, there is also a difference between leader and manager. Okay, in fact, it is a separate study. There are some basic differences. We could also pinpoint a lot of differences. In fact, they say um, all leaders need some amount of management skills. Okay, and all managers may need some amount of leadership skills. If a manager doesn't possess leadership skill, he may not be as effective as he is. And if a leader, in fact, to become a leader, you need automatically you will acquire managerial skills. Okay, so all leaders will have managerial skills, but that doesn't mean all leaders are managers and all managers are leaders. Okay, so there is a difference. So what is the difference? In fact, there is this small quote that is, managers do things, do the things right. Managers do things right. Leaders do the right things. That is the difference. What is the difference? Manager will do the things right way. They will do something in a right, proper manner. But leader is a person who thinks whether doing this is right or not. So he won't engage before doing it. He won't doing this action if it is not right. So that is the difference between a leader and manager. There are also other differences, but we are not going to discuss about. In fact, I will put a separate lesson on manager versus leader. So a leader is a person who don't need any title. Okay, he could be any person who influence other person. When you are working in an organization, naturally when you do your work, when you are self-aware, when you are self-controlled, when you are highly motivated, naturally you exhibit some amount of leadership skills. It will naturally come. In fact, all the personal competence that we learn, if you acquire all those things, naturally you will be a leader. Okay, and one of the thing about leadership is these people will normally step forward even when they don't have that leading position. Even if they are not in a managerial position or no, they will do a job for our organization. They are not self-motivated. Leaders are. In fact, there are different leadership styles. Okay, so for example, different managerial styles I should say. For example, an autocratic style in which a manager will be forcing the worker to do the job. There could be people oriented leader who will actually get along with people and do things. Okay, and there could be free rein leader who will let people do whatever they want. Okay, there are also such kind of leaders. So there are different types of leader. There will be people leaders who will try to motivate by giving rewards and other thing. Okay, selling type of leader. So there are different types of leaders. Okay, among this, who will be the better leader means the leader who is people centered, participative leader. Okay, in fact, leadership style. Okay, participative leader who is among the workers. Rather than telling the people, he will get feedback from workers also. Such a type of leader will always be successful. And please also remember, a leader will not always be kind and people oriented. They will also be tough. In fact, the leader knows when to be tough. They won't be always tough like an autocratic leader. An autocratic leader will always boss around people. But a leader, the correct leader, will only intervene or or be tough and firm only the situation required. He won't be that tough and firm in normal situations. In normal situations, only when the performance of the workers go down, that time you will be tough. So they know when to be tough. Okay, so that is another thing about leadership. So leadership is about acquiring skills to influencing others to carry out an activity, rather than promising the other person reward and other things to motivate them. If you are inspired by a leader, you will have the trust with them and you will do anything for him. Okay, that is how some leaders could inspire millions of people. In fact, what they have given to those people, they won't give anything reward like that. In fact, if a leader speak in a podium, there are thousands of people go naturally go and watch. They won't even give anything to him, but they will go because they would like what he is articulating, what he's saying is naturally inspiring, and it is also as the skill, that communication skill. Okay, so leadership competence is another very important competence in interpersonal skills. This will be very much useful when you go up the ladder in an organization. When you are at a bottom level, in whatever situation, when you have these skills, it will be useful. But when you go up the ladder, when you have leadership skill, it will be very useful for you for to be successful and effective. Okay, so the fifth, so this is the leadership is the fourth subcomponent. The fifth subcomponent is change catalyst. Change catalyst. Okay, so what is change catalyst? See, there is a saying that the only constant is change. The only change doesn't change, otherwise everything changes. So there will always be something to change in an organization. For you, if you are a person, you need to change. If you are working in an organization, that organization needs change. So there will always be change. Okay, you won't remain the same always. There will be change coming and going. So you should be well prepared to manage change. That is what change catalyst is about. It is you yourself identify the need for change, and you yourself will actively undergo the change. Okay, rather than situation forcing you to change. Okay, that is what change catalyst means. Change catalyst means identifying the need for change even before the change comes. Okay, there are people who are highly proactive in that sense. They will identify a situation that tomorrow this may not work, so they will be well prepared earlier. Okay, for example, once upon a time, something may be very famous. For example, even MBA. Okay, MBA was very famous in the 90s. Okay, but after 2000 and nowadays, no, MBA, if you studied at a very high institute, it has value. It doesn't have that kind of value when you do it in a ordinary college. Okay, what led to this? Because there are multiple number of people studied MBA, and everybody today has an MBA. Okay, so in such situations, just holding a MBA will not fetch you a good job. You need to have something more. So a change catalyst will identify it. He won't rely only on his MBA. He will acquire skills that is more than MBA. For example, he may develop some skills that is beyond MBA. Okay, there is nothing wrong with it. So an organization, when they are looking for people with more than mere MBA, they will look. If you have those kind of skills, you will be very easily recruited. So change catalyst is a person who is challenge status quo. Challenge status quo means, see, generally we all will feel comfortable when we are at a comfort zone. When we are at we live a way that once we get accustomed to something, no, we feel comfort, and we will like that for a long period of time. We don't even seek change. Okay, and a person with this competence, no, the change catalyst, will actually challenge this. They will not get settled in a comfort zone. They will seek challenges. They will try to change. They won't get settled in a comfort zone, because when you get settled in a comfort zone, at certain time when the change happens, your comfort zone will not be comfort anymore. So you have not prepared yourself like that. So a change catalyst is a person who is always looking for change, and he will successfully manage the change. Okay, and they will recognize the need for change. Okay, so that is about change catalyst. Now we'll see the sixth subcomponent of interpersonal skill. The sixth, seventh, and eighth are all very similar. That is, the sixth is building bonds, nurturing interpersonal relationship, creating networks among people. Okay, The seventh is collaboration and cooperation. Again, this is about working with people to get things done, cooperating with others to get things done. And the eighth is team capabilities, working as a team when you work in an organization. Okay, all this will actually help you to become have a high interpersonal skills. Okay, what do we mean by building bonds? See, when you work in an organization, you should always remember to develop a relationship with people with whom you interact. Okay, for example, it may be your colleague, it may be your subordinate, it may be a person who work in your organization but does not have anything to do with you. Okay, see, quite often we will get along with people with whom we have some sort of work. Okay, in fact, generally, if you pick 90% of the people, no, if you pick 100 people, 90 people will have relationship like friendship and other things, no, friendship and other things, relationship with only people with whom they deal. That is, they will either be a work colleague or a studying partner or some gym partner or some family member like that. Okay, 90% of the people will have relationship only with whom they deal. Okay, but there are people who develop instrumental relationship. Okay, instrumental relationship, that is, they will try to build relationship even when they don't have any work or dealing with them. For example, I will give an example, personal example. I work in an organization in which there are some 20 departments like that. Okay, I worked in a particular department. I have my superior, and I also have had a subordinate, and there was a manager. With these are all the people that I usually normally interact, and there are some few colleagues with me. Okay, nearby department, but there are some 30 departments. That is a big company. Okay, but now naturally what I will do is I will actually have relationship with a lot of department people, casual relationship. While going for a coffee, I will strike a relationship, I'll speak with them, and this will develop into some informal relationship, creating this kind of informal bonds. Why these are all very important, you may ask. See, tomorrow something happen in a particular department in your company, in some other department in which you are not part, you will get easily that information because you had someone there. I will just call to that person and say what happened, and he will say everything in detail. In fact, this will help you to know everything that is happening in that company. Okay, and your intention should be good. It should not be for some ulterior motive. It is to be aware of what is happening in and around the organization. Okay, in fact, I will tell you why these kind of informal networks are very important. In fact, if you are working in a company, if you are working in that company as a manager, okay, take example, senior level manager in that company, and all the department will come under you, but you have some immediate subordinates, and you generally the chain of command will be, you will ask your immediate subordinate to go and see what happens in a particular department, go and see at what happened to that other department, like that. Okay, and he will give some information and you will come to know, like that. It is a formal channel. Okay, but if you are a manager, if you are going to rely only on your on this formal channel, you will never know what is happening in reality, because your subordinate sometimes might have not given you the full information, the correct information. And as a manager, you cannot be like that. You cannot be like a blind person feeding on information that is given by your subordinate. So when you develop these kind of informal networks, no, You could even identify whether your subordinate is working correctly, properly, whether he's giving you the right information, because you will have informal network everywhere. Okay, so in every department, when you are adding friendship, that is why while we are growing itself, we have to nurture these kind of bonds. When we develop this kind of friendship, it will be useful when we are at a top level, so that when something happens in a particular department, that department, your friend will inform all the things about that department. You will come to an idea. Okay, so these kind of instrumental relationship, the purpose, there is some real purpose, but this purpose is for some good reason, for the organizational benefit. It should not be your personal benefit. Okay, and whenever you develop this kind of relationship, it will help the organization, it will help you, it will also personally help to you tomorrow in some other way. Okay, see, I see there is this person uh, who worked in a big organization as a chief executive, but he never cared about people. Okay, even at his own level people he never cared about. So suddenly one day he got fired. Okay, and he was trying to get a job, but he could not get a job because he didn't develop any network on like this kind of relationship. In fact, I am one such person. I always think myself as something, I'm overconfident kind of guy, no, like that, my attitude. So I won't rely on other people for ordinary tasks. But even for simple tasks, when you collaborate and cooperate with people, no, this will build some relationship. You should think that way, rather than thinking why I should go to this person for help. Why I should go to this person for help? See, you may do that on your own, but even then, if you could collaborate, it will be very useful. You will build a interpersonal relationship, you will work as a team, and always remember the very important factor, working with others, collaborating and cooperating with others. The most important factor is, see, 2 plus 2 is what? Normally 4. Okay, but when you are working with people, 2 plus 2 may change into 10 or 20. So there is synergy. That synergy will increase. When you are all 4 of you are working separately, you may develop only 4 things. But when 4 of you come together, you could build nearly 20. Okay, that is what synergy is about. In fact, why people join groups, there is this famous thing in management study. Why people join groups? People join groups because of this benefit, and there is your social interaction, that is also satisfied. Okay, people, they say no, man is a social animal, they always like to get along with people, that is also served. So always try to do things with others. In fact, I learnt this lesson after a long period of time. What a waste of my life. Okay, in fact, I thought myself I could do things on my own when I'm capable of, but there are hundreds of things that I'm not capable of doing. So not doing on my own, I could have relied on things with others. But since I have always had this attitude, I am not seeking help from others, it actually been a big obstacle for me. Okay, there is this famous quote: none of us is as smart as all of us. Nobody can be a single genius. You have to collab and cooperate with others. Of course, uh, human intelligence, when you are dealing with 10 people, 5 people may not have that much of intelligence, 3 4 people may be intelligent, and you may be superior among them. That doesn't matter. You have to be humble and work with the team. That is what this means: building relationship, collaboration and cooperation, and team capabilities. Only when you work as a team in any organization, your output will be larger and it will be better. Okay, In fact, in these days, in any interview, they will seek people who want employees or the candidates who are applying for the job should possess these skills: getting along with others, team care, working as a team. In fact, when you work in an organization, always be careful not to have high ambition. At least don't show it to others. Okay, if you show you have high ambition, if you always been like a person who's looking for great things, no, it is naturally disliked in any organization. In fact, when you work in a team, no, you should always think in terms of team as a goal, overall goal. You should never have these personal goals in your mind, but there will always be that in your mind at some point. But when you work in a team, you should mingle with the team. Okay, when you work in a team, you should work as a team. And these days, this attitude will be highly seen in every individual. They want people who will work in a team as a team rather than thinking. So when you work in a team, no, you should never be seen as dominating in a team. Okay, even if you have, for example, if there is the group decision making, ideas are made, no, you should always not give ideas fast, like all the ideas you should not give. Okay, some people will be highly dominating because of their intelligence level. Okay, and you should know to how to self control yourself in such situations. You may give opinions when you are asked or at the appropriate time, rather than always being over enthusiastic. In fact, one of my problem is also that I will always be over enthusiastic. Whenever I find a good idea, no, I will shoot it. But it will be seen in the group as you are becoming a dominating person. Your intention may not be that, but it will be seen like that. So you know, you should be aware when you are working in as a team. You should play the team role rather than your own. So here again, self-awareness and self-control is very important. When you work in a team, no, again here self-awareness and self-control comes into play. You should know when to speak, when to give your opinions, when to be silent, and you should also know when to be very firmly, even when your boss is saying an opinion, if you feel that it should be questioned, you should question. But again, everything depend upon the situation. You should never be seen as criticizing your boss. You should give some suggestions if the boss is giving a wrong idea. Okay, and that is where leadership comes. Leadership is about challenging the status quo. Even if your boss says something wrong, you should say it, but you should say it in such a way that your boss should accept. That is very important. Quite frequently what happens is when we give some suggestions, there will be some bosses who may not take it in the right way. And again, here also your self-awareness and your social awareness come into play. You should know your boss. If your boss is a person who doesn't like you giving suggestions and some feedback, you should never give. If he wants to be a person to be always that crows are white, you should also be like that. Okay, but this is something will come to you naturally when you work in an organization with people, when you could identify people. Okay, so please remember all these factors. So we in today we learned the all the remaining five, that is leadership competence, change catalyst, building bonds, collaboration and cooperation, and finally team capabilities. So all these five competence we learn. So all these are part of social skills. We also previously learned in my last lesson influence, communication and conflict management. So all these 8 will be part of your social skills. In fact, please remember all these competence. Right from the beginning we learned no self-awareness, self-regulation, self-motivation, social awareness or empathy, and finally now social skills. All these are interrelated. And please also remember, none of us can acquire all these skills. Okay, and we don't need all these skills to be successful. Okay, in civil service exam they say you just need some mm, qualifying marks. Like that, some skills here will do fine, some competence. Okay, if you are if you have acquired some 4 or 5 competence of this 25, you will be effective. Okay, some of the basics like self awareness, having a good understanding about yourself and controlling yourself, which itself will take you some places, and having some amount of empathy and having some amount of working, getting along with people, interpersonal skills will take you to great highly effective places. If you have all this, you will become a super intelligent, super emotionally intelligent person. In fact, none of us need to build all these skills. If you have some of these skills and certain skills, when you have strongly, you will naturally become a highly emotionally intelligent person, having all the emotionally competent person. Okay, so with this I'm ending my lesson about emotional intelligence. In fact, we have learnt everything. In fact, this will be useful. So far what we learnt will be enough for students who are preparing for civil services. Okay, and we will also learn for our personal knowledge, to improve the skills, that each each competence, that is self awareness, self regulation, in detail in some other classes. I will put some lessons in detail, how to acquire self regulation, how to acquire self awareness, what are all the problems. Now we saw only each and every skills and why those skills are needed. So we need to we can even go deeper. Okay, in fact, when Daniel Goleman has written his book, working with emotional intelligence, he was actually studying in such a way. Okay, we will see all those things. When I get a time, I'll put a separate lesson on each topic. With this, I am ending the emotional intelligence topic. Okay, I hope you understand something. Try to learn about it and try to practice these kind of skills. Okay, in fact, we learnt about self-regulation. Try to about self-awareness. Try to have develop good self-awareness skill. Try to read your emotion and try to control your emotion. Develop motivation. Have empathy for people. Develop interpersonal skills. Naturally, you will become a emotionally intelligent person. Okay. Bye.